Hi everyone, welcome to this video in a series of videos on signaling and the dispatching system of the SLS railroad. This video is going to cover signals, and we will cover aspects such as clearing a route, fleeting, and detection. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with covering signals. All signals on the layout are going to normally appear in their default state as white, with the exception of the West Bear River signal, which is currently red. That signal is highly integrated with the West Bear River Woodruff traffic panel, and we will cover this panel and the operation of this West Bear River signal in another video. So with that in mind, to clear a route is fairly straightforward. You simply left click on the signal and you will notice that it goes yellow and you have a line that is green across your track. That green line is indicating how far you have cleared a route and how far the system is interlocked to allow the train to traverse safely over a given section of track. Notice that the signal goes yellow. This yellow does not necessarily indicate that the signal is yellow. It just means that it is the last signal before the route reaches its next stop point or halt signal, which would be red. This signal here does not have an indication other than halt and does not have a route does not have a route cleared through it. If we clear additional routes ahead, you will notice that this signal here goes green. That green indication again does not necessarily mean a green aspect out on the layout. It simply means that the next signal is at least a yellow, if not another green. And if we clear another signal and another route further on, you will notice that this signal turns green and this one is green. I know from the way the signal system operates that this signal here would be an advanced approach. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it is advanced approach just because it is green. Likewise, it does not necessarily mean that this signal here is a clear just because it is green. So just keep in mind that these are more tools to indicate to you what condition your clearing status is of your route rather than a specific indication on the layout. The computer will handle that all automatically. So I will go ahead and I will clear that. Next, we will cover basically a train transitioning across the layout. So if we clear a route, such as I'm doing here, and let's say I had a train here at Old Main, I'm going to simulate our train using a feature. I right-clicked on Old Main, and this window came up. Once this window comes up, I have these options, and I'm going to click, and that's going to be a left click on Occupy Block. I click with a left click on Accept, and notice now it turns red. I'm simulating occupancy of that block. Now if I go up and do the same thing on the West Sage OS, and that block is not the block I want. Let's come over here a little ways. You will notice that the OS is now turned red, and the signal has turned red. So I'm going to go ahead and unoccupy the block, and notice the route now has cleared out of Old Main, and the detection is cleared. Actually, we did not have a route in Old Main. But we'll continue our train eastbound. This is just say a one locomotive, and I'm going to occupy my block. Now if I unoccupy my block, notice that the route has cleared out of the OS, and the signal has returned to a halt state. So we're going to clear our train through into East Sandy Creek, and we're going to unoccupy our block, and he's going to come up here to the red at East Sage. And notice he stops. So the system automatically will drop the signals and put them back to a cautionary or to the most restrictive state after the train has cleared the detection. As indicated with the Occupy block, the function of this is not entirely prototypical. It is just a means with which to occupy on the panel a section of track, and you can also unoccupy if you had a detector that was stuck, or if by chance you had the West Sage OS in manual unlock for local control, and the crew forgot to leave it in, although it's best to just have your crews check and make sure they have unplugged their lock key from the West Sage local control panel. Note that when we clear a route, and I'm going to clear a route down into Sage sighting, and I clicked on the turnout. We'll cover that more in other videos. When I clear that route, let's assume for a moment that I have a train here at Old Main, and again I'm just going to drop my locomotive right there at Old Main. In order to clear a route, I simply have to click on it, and to take that route away or to drop that signal, I simply, again, left click on that, and it immediately goes away. This is not entirely prototypical, and in the prototype there would be what's known as a time penalty or a time lock on this once the signal is upgraded. The reason behind that is if this train were traveling at a substantial speed and we're within close proximity, let's say a quarter of a mile in prototype terms of this signal, and I were to drop that, I would instantly throw a route up in front of that train. And that would then give me the ability to, say, throw a turnout, and if there was a train sitting here on Sage Main and I were to throw that turnout, and again, prototype systems will not allow this, but in our case, if we were to imagine that this were the scenario and we had a 10,000 ton grain train here going eastbound and he were to go blowing through this, he very likely could go headlong into this if I had thrown that turnout. So there's a time penalty with this, that there would be a time penalty associated with this in the prototype, which this system does not employ. So again, if this were the situation and you were to decide that you did not want that route, it would be best to, before you clear your route initially, just look at your panel and look and see what your options are before you clear a route. It may be best to allow this train here to run up onto New Main, such as this, and have this train wait. Whatever the circumstances are, the key point meaning that once you've committed to a route, it's best not to throw a red up in front of an engineer that has been given a route and cause him distress and distract from the prototype atmosphere that is at the op session. So again, we'll just clear this route here and show it going down into the siding. Next, I'm going to cover fleeting. Fleeting is the ability of the signaling system to automatically re-upgrade your signal based on occupancy ahead of that signal, and it just works for the block in which the signal protects. Let's imagine that I have a train here, and I have another train right here on the Randolph block. Now, we're going to negate the effects or any operation of this signal here. Let's just assume, for the simplicity's sake, that I have a train here at Old Main. I have given him a route, and I have cleared a route all the way through East Sage OS. Now in doing so, he's going to go ahead and take this block here at West Sage. He's also going to take the Sage siding OS. And let's just assume that this is one locomotive or a helper. Once he goes into there, we're going to occupy the block of Sage, and I'm going to unoccupy this block. Notice that my signals drop. Now, this is what fleeting will solve so that I don't have to continually keep clicking on these signals to give myself another aspect, such as if I occupy that block and unoccupy that block, I would now have to come back over and clear this, assuming that one would be gone. He left it in the caboose, so we picked it off. But let's say that our next train came over here and has now occupied this block here at Old Main, and he has disappeared from here. He just sort of went through West Bear River OS. Again, this is just demonstrating. If I come up to the signal and right-click on it, and I click on Turn on Fleeting, nothing changes on the panel. However, if I right-click on it again, you'll notice that it says Turn off Fleeting. This is indicating that the system is in fleeting mode now. If I right-click and occupy the block, and occupy this block again here, and clear this route, or excuse me, unoccupy that block, and unoccupy this block, that one always seems to like to occupy. Okay, notice that the signal now has gone to a red, but the green line has reappeared. This is indicating that the signal has indeed gone back up to an upgraded status, but it can't because of detection. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to occupy this block and move this train along here. And since I didn't clear him or a fleet on this signal at East Sage, it just simply is indicating that that signal has dropped back down to a halt status. So we're just going to pick this train up off the layout, and I'm going to clear this train here, and we're going to go back onto Occupy Block. We're going to move him a little bit further, and now I'm going to move him to the East Sage OS. Once this train has cleared the siding, that signal there will re-upgrade. So basically, when everything that this signal protects has gone to a cleared state and there is no detection, the signal will automatically upgrade. To turn off fleeting, you can either click on the signal or you can right click on it and click turn off fleeting. In this case, I'll just click on turn off fleeting, and notice our clearance or our route has cleared. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of the block. And I have a little hanging bit of clearance there, so I just click on the signal before it, click on it once, click on it again, and it again clears. Up to now, we've cleared through routes that are valid, but if you had a train sitting here at West Sage and it was a westbound and he needed to go this way, if I click on this, notice this turnout here is lined against this signal, and I click on that, it's going to come up with this screen that says the reservation could not be made because of conflicts. That's indicating to me that there's some reason why that signal will not upgrade. Well, I can see that here because that turnout is lined against me. If I correct that and click that again, that route then goes to a cleared state. There are a couple of places on the layout that is going to show what appears to be a valid route, but in fact will not allow you to line a route. Those exist here at Wind River branch line, Fremont branch line, and Bonneville Junction. I do have some little tags down here and some wordings that indicate that you cannot run a train the other direction, such as westbound only, and from Bonneville Junction it's pointing to the left. In this case, if you were to click on a signal to clear a train on Main 1 into Main 1 coming out of Bonneville Junction, it's going to come up with our route reservation conflict error screen. The reason for this is we have designed this track here on Main 1 to prohibit movement going eastbound. It will only allow a westbound train to be routed. The reason for this is because of the Bonneville Junction yard ladder and the way the switches operate. So in that case, you must route trains through the crossover and up onto Main 2 to go into Bonneville Junction. Likewise, you'd also need to do the same thing coming out of Riverton Yard, such as that. If you did not have that thrown at the crossover, you would get your route reservation conflict. Also, up at Lake Point, you will get an error if you try to route a train down the outbound track. Again, we will get our route reservation conflict, and we would also get the same thing up here at Wind River. Excuse me, this is Fremont. This is Wind River. So if I try to clear that route, it's going to tell me I have a route reservation conflict. So just keep in mind there are these instances on the layout in which you cannot line a route, and you just need to pay attention as to why you can't. The system won't allow you. You can sit and click on that all day long, and it will not allow you to do it. Next, we'll cover Lunars. Lunars are a signal indication that tell the engineer that they are proceeding from signal territory into non-signal territory, and the lunar is indicating to them that the OS is lined for their movement, but anything beyond the OS should be treated as a restricted or possibly an occupied state. So you don't know necessarily what the condition is of the track beyond the OS. Lunars exist here at Sage Yard, coming off of the siding. So this route here would be a lunar. Again, we have a yellow signal, but in the case of the layout, the signal will indicate lunar. We have a lunar for west-south pass going eastbound onto the Atlantic City branch line. So that would give you a lunar indication. And also going on to Ashley Siding or Ashley Block, Maine would also give you a lunar, and that would be this signal right here. So this signal would give you a lunar. Also, eastbound into Riverton Yard at West Riverton, you have two lunars. They are on the bridge, and these two signals here both have a bottom head lunar. So going into Riverton Yard, either coming from Main 1, such as that, or Main 2, such as that, are going to give you a lunar indication. Last but not least, we also have lunars going westbound, coming out of Bonneville Junction. Most trains that come out of Bonneville Junction will come up Main 1. So if we had this route, this would give us a lunar on the double head at East Riverton. Likewise, coming off of Main 2, if special arrangements are made with the dispatcher and a train is brought up out of Bonneville Junction on Main 2, that would give the engineer a lunar into Riverton Yard. Again, since that's a lunar, it's always best to contact Riverton Yard and make sure the yard master has the room and can take the train into the yard. So it's best to verbally communicate that with the Riverton Yard master. One other thing to keep in mind is that there is a signaling anomaly, or shall we say something out of the ordinary, since we do have the ability to send trains out of Sage Yard, and we do not have a lunar at East Sandy Creek. They will get a lower head yellow on this westbound signal. If we cross this over here and we throw the switch at Sage Yard Station Lead, when we throw that route, they will get a yellow here. It is giving them an indication that they are going and that they should be prepared to be able to stop by their next indication, and that should mean also that when they see the switch at the station lead going into the yard, they would then need to proceed at a restricted aspect. There may be a lunar put into this at some point later, but as of right now, there is not a lunar at this signal. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and end this video. We appreciate your attention and we appreciate you watching. If you have any further questions, please feel free to contact us, and we hope you have a nice day. Thank you.